money can be so controlling in your life and the decisions that you make with it, but it also can be a huge blessing in what you can do with it if you manage it well and responsibly.
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hello, everybody. And this week we have Andy Mudler on the podcast. And a lot of you guys already know Andy. He's quite the pioneer in the way that he looks at business and the way he runs his business. That's why I really wanted to have him on Sales Made Simple here. And today what we're going to jump right into is how do you thrive without debt? How running your outdoor living business debt-free transforms your sales game. How do you show up differently when you don't have those banks knocking on your door or taking out of your account every single month, constantly thinking, how am I going to make bills? Not just payroll, but to pay for all that iron laying around in the yard. So, Andy, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to unpack this with you. Debt-free has been something near and dear to my heart for many years, and I didn't know it in the beginning. When I first started business, it was how much debt could you possibly take on so you could be driving around in the newest equipment as quick as possible and to show all your friends that you're in business, and this is great. The problem is the bank owned all that stuff, and if you took a 5-year loan on something, after 5 years, that equipment was probably pretty beat up at that point. There wasn't a whole lot left to it. So you're thinking like, wait a minute here. Is this really the right path? But I haven't met too many people in this industry that would run it debt-free, specifically with how much it costs to run an outdoor living business. So today I'd love to get into, how your perspective changes on sales when you don't have debt, how shifting your mindset on debt can greatly reduce your stress levels as a business owner. We know overwhelm, stress are the two biggest, key components to owning a business, but how do we reduce that by not having all that debt? And how to scale your business debt-free. So I'd love to jump right in and ask you a question. So what is living debt-free, specifically in business, running your business debt-free? What does it mean? Like for listeners out there thinking like, I don't have that many bills. Like what does debt-free mean to you?
Yeah. Well, again, Josh, I appreciate you having me on today. And this is something that I'm really passionate about. Me and my wife we have been for pretty much most of our married life. We've been married for 15 years. And when we wanted to start this business 10 years ago, we had already been living a debt-free lifestyle and pushing towards that. We were not 100% debt-free at that time, but we knew that we wanted to start our business debt-free. And what that means for me is we don't borrow money. I don't borrow money for equipment. I don't borrow money for trucks. I don't borrow money for literally anything. We committed to doing this when we started the business. I had worked for somebody else for 13 years, and I could have probably stayed where I was working and maybe bought his company. And it came down to the fact that how are we going to buy that company? Well, we were going to buy it by either owner financing through him or whatever, or I was going to go borrow a bunch of money to buy a bunch of equipment that was run down or whatever I was buying, right? I didn't know what I was buying. And we just decided, what? We could do this debt-free if we started from nothing and start small and grow slow. And so that's what it meant for us then. That's what it means for us now. I still run our business 100% debt-free. We have never borrowed money for anything. Since that time, we've become personally 100% debt-free. We paid off our house, I think 6 years ago now. And that was the last debt that we have. And it's a commitment. There's been times in the business where I felt like that was the right answer. And I think if I didn't have a good support system like me and my wife together, there's been times when I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to go do this thing. It always comes down to buying something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so deciding, what is the right decision? How bad do I need this thing? What does this thing need to cost? Why do I need it so bad? And is there another way? And so always having that support system of my wife has always been a blessing, because when I want to just, throw up my hands and go make a bad decision, she's like, no, there's got to be another way. Let's talk through this or whatever. And she doesn't formally work in the business at all, but she works in the business.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. There's not a decision that doesn't happen in this business that she doesn't know about. or I haven't sought her counsel on, or guidance or advice on. And so there's just been different things through the 10 years of business where I have had to really think hard. How bad do I want to do it this way? Because there is times when you feel like you're put in a corner and you have to, and that may be the only way out. And I can tell you that I've always found a way out by not going into debt. And then in hindsight, it always ends up being the right decision. And there's so many different times when it's just like looking back, it's like, man, if I would have made that decision, this would have happened or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep.
So it's a way of life. It's a, I don't know. I don't like, I don't know, the word mindset annoys me sometimes, but you have to decide this is what you're going to do because everybody's pulling you in a different way. Everybody's pulling you the other way in our world, in the type of consumer mindset or consumer like lifestyle or culture that we have, right? There's always the next best thing. There's always something better. There's always something faster. There's always something more efficient. There's always a reason to justify the spending. But I've had, it's easier now to do the things that we want to do, but that's because it took, 10 years of doing things that maybe were a little bit harder the other way. And now, we're on some of the backside of, I guess not growing pains, but like the harder I've found it seems to be like there was a hill to climb and now we're at the top
Mhm.
of the hill financially, if that makes sense. Not all the way, but you know what I mean? Like it's easier now to run my business debt free than it was when we were starting, if that makes sense. Um, so it's just it's a commitment that we've made to run our company, and that's how. I mean, we've now developed our own line of credit, basically, where we have an account set up where if I need funds, that's where we take it from, and so I don't need the bank. Like I don't have this incredible I don't even have a person. Maybe have one person at the bank, at my local bank, that I know I could call about something with my account, but I don't have like a relationship with my banker. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't matter to me. I don't, it just the freedom that I have found in running my company this way it's very hard to communicate, and it's I really think it's something special, and I mean, I know we're gonna get into it, but I think differently. I carry myself differently. I sell differently. Like everything, it is all money can be so controlling in your life and the decisions that you make with it. Um, but it also can be a huge blessing in what you can do with it if you manage it well and responsibly. And then, how you can bless your team, how you can, your family, like anything. I mean, it's a tool, and, um, I believe it's a gift, and I believe that, I have to be a good steward of the things that I've been given, and I think this is the right way to do it. And I also know that there's a lot of really successful business owners out there that don't do it this way, and that's fine. But for me, this is the way that we've decided to do it, and the freedom that I feel and the um, stress level that I have, um, on the money side, like it's non-existent. I don't have money stress ever. I just don't. And frankly, I mean, there's been like ups and downs where it's like, man, like whatever, like different things like that. But like, I would say, like thinking back over, like I'm not a very, I don't think I'm not a super anxious person. But business ownership creates worry. You just, there's so many things going on. And, um, I think in our culture, there's so much anxiety and worry and stress that builds up on people. And like, if I can find a way to reduce one thing, like, why wouldn't that I can control? Why
Yep.
wouldn't I do that? Because I'm going to have the rest of it coming at me no matter what. I can't even imagine going through some of the different things we've gone through and then be stressed out about paying like the next payment coming in.
Yep.
I can't do it. It's just not worth it to
Yeah.
me.
That makes, I mean, wow. Yeah, that's a huge, listeners out there. If you're running heavy on debt, like I did when I first started out and took my tax accountant's advice and tried to Section 179 expense everything every year and say, hey, if you just spent, you could spend up to 100 grand again this year. And we go, all right, cool. New truck, new skid steer, new this, new that, and expense it all and get it, go into debt with it. And, the crazy part is after about 4 or 5 years of doing that, trying to quote unquote save taxes, I then ended up having this massive bill every single month due to pay for all that iron that was depreciating in value every day. And at a certain point, it started to feel like the tail was wagging the dog. And I was thinking like, man, this can't be the way forward until I seeked better guidance. And the better guidance was like, look, we don't buy stuff to save taxes. We buy stuff to improve our efficiencies. We
That's
buy
right.
stuff to be able to help more people to grow and scale. We don't buy things to save money on taxes. That is a poor man's mentality. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, but this guy's like 60, 70 years old. That's the farmer mentality, right? There's nothing wrong with that. I came from a
No.
farm. Like I grew up, my family's all that, but it's like at a certain point, it doesn't serve you anymore. So I'd love to jump in with you here, Andy, about how did your perspective on selling and helping people, serving people, and all that change when you don't have debt? Like, how do you show up? How do other people show up that it's so different?
Yeah, I think in the last I would say 2 to 3 years, I started to and it probably comes from being more involved in the industry, so to speak, meeting other people, talking to other people. And I started to realize that like I think there's the difference I think in some of my selling. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm a good salesman. I don't think I'm actually that good of a salesman. I'm not pushy. I'm not. If you like it and you want to work with us, cool. If not, but the more I thought about
So
that,
that means you're actually a very good salesman.
well, I think that some of my sales technique or whatever, I wouldn't even call it that. I think it all comes from the thought process that I don't really have to have the next job that's barking down my door. Or the person that says, you should come and meet with me. I have, you could do this job and I have a lot more others. And so if you give me a good deal on this one, you're going to get the next 10. You
Yeah.
know that
Oh yeah.
type of person, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, or, you go and meet with somebody and they have this incredible space and it's just going to be the best thing ever. And it's the next, it's the job that we all get it where you go and meet and you have this like these butterflies about this job. This is
Mm-hmm.
the one. And,
Mm-hmm.
and I've had to just like, it's not always, most of the time, those types of jobs are too good to be true. But I have just, like, I don't need every job. I don't care. Like, if I need to work, I have a responsibility to my team. I want them to work. Obviously, we have a business to run. It needs to make money. I get all of that. But at the core of it, I don't need every single person's job that calls me. I want the jobs that I want to do for the people that I want to work with at the price that I want to charge for the job. And I don't have like right now we're super busy right now. Normally we would never be this busy in December. It's a blessing. But in the years past, we make it to Thanksgiving and I'm like, cool. Like we'll be done. I'm not like freaking out that we don't have work. And like right now we salted one time. We do a little bit of snow removal. But even the snow removal side of the business, like to me, snow removal, if we make money doing snow removal, it's a bonus because I don't need to make that money in the winter to pay my bills. I don't have bills, right? So I just I think I carry myself differently. I I think that I know that that has to come off in the sales process because I'm not jamming it down their throat. I show them what I'm doing. I show them what I want to do. We talk. Do you want to do it? If you don't, let me know in a week. I don't really care. Like, this is where we're at right now, and we could do it maybe around this time. Like, I'm not like, I don't know. I'm just not a pushy salesman because I don't need to be pushy.
Yep.
And I think that the right customers that I want to work for see that and feel that.
Mm.
Especially like we've done we've had a big blessing of finding and working for some, I would call very high end jobs and customers. And I don't know if you want to call it high profile, whatever. It's cause I would never think if you would have asked me 10 years ago, would we be doing what we're doing for who we're doing it for now? I would have said no. And they're not, those type of people are not in our area. They are in our area and I didn't know it. And those jobs are out there and I didn't know it. And they know each other and they talk and they're great people to work for, but they also, you don't get to be at the level where you're spending what you're spending on landscaping without being really smart and seeing through people's BS, if
Oh
that
yeah.
makes sense, right? So I think that some of that my how I carry myself, how I talk to the customer, how I think that's they see that, right? And they like that. They want to be served and they're willing to pay for that service. But they're not going to work with somebody that's going to slam it down their throat and tell them when they're going to sign the contract or tell them whatever. And so I these are all things that I guess the more I get asked about it, the more I think about it, I guess. And so things that I've observed or thought about over the last couple of years as people have started to ask me these sorts of questions. And I don't think that I ever expected that to be a byproduct of running the business debt free. And I would have never said I'm going to run a business so that I can sell better and have a less stressful sales process or a no pressure sales process. I'm just creating a term. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but I would have
Right.
not thought that this was a byproduct. And I don't think people would think that. I don't have worry about how my family's going to eat the next day because I didn't sell this job. Does
Yep.
that make sense?
It
Or
does.
how my payroll is going to be met or whatever. Of course, we need to sell work. We have we have like expenses, right? But, um, I know that the work is gonna come, and I know that, uh, every time I didn't get a job that I thought I needed, in hindsight, it was always the best thing that happened. Every time, I've had some, like, disappointing things where it's like, "Man, I thought that was a done deal," or, "I needed that job," or, "I can't believe that contractor undercut me," or whatever, like, we've all had those types of experiences, and then in hindsight, it's like, I am so glad I didn't get that job because I was able to do this one over here,
Yep.
or
Exactly.
because I heard that this happened, or after that, or whatever. Like it happens all the time, and like I believe that um uh God gives us what we need at the right times, and um I it's just I've never not had I've always had what we needed. God's always provided for our company, and I can see his hand working in our company from day one. And I don't need to get into all that on here. It's my philosophy on life and business. And that's the same thing. It all trickles back to how we manage our money and how I treat it as a tool, and it can be a blessing. And there's nothing wrong with making money and
Yep.
all of that stuff. So
No, I absolutely couldn't agree more, man. I just love hearing you go on this because it's something that's not spoken about enough.
yeah,
You talk about when it comes to meeting with clients and figuring out if you're the best solution for them and if you understand their problem well and all that kind of stuff. And if you're in the back of your head thinking, all right, you're walking up to Mrs. Jones's door, you're pounding on the door, your heart is pounding, you're breathing heavy because you need to sell this project to make payroll because you have, debt and all these expenses and all this stuff. You show up different.
yeah,
You show up different. You show up more desperate. You show up more needy. And a client smells that 200 miles away.
oh yeah,
And I know this because this used to be my story, right? I would show up and I had debt and I had all like, if I could just sell this project, it would solve my problem. And the problem is that sometimes I would and sometimes I wouldn't. And if I
sure,
didn't, then I'm like, oh crap, now what? But to your point, there's always another door that opens, right? So it's like, okay, maybe it was better that I didn't get that project. But in the moment, you show up that way and that smell of desperation comes across through your wording, through your pressure, through your, hey, why don't you get started now? What's stopping you from making the decision right now? And like, nobody likes
yeah,
that shit. Nobody wants that. But when
right,
you come in being like, just like you had mentioned, when you come in there and you talk and you understand their problem deeply and you spend the time with them, knowing that, you know what, maybe they'll go with me and maybe they won't, but here, let's just have a conversation. Maybe we are a good fit. They can feel that that relaxed nature. I'm sure they can feel it through you,
Yeah.
and they can feel that relaxed nature. Like, hey, let's see if this makes sense. If this is win-win, let's move forward. If it's not, let's just thank the time we've had together. Hopefully it helps you on your journey, and we'll continue to move on. Right.
Right.
So there's a difference, listeners out there. If you come in and you know you need to make money, and not make money, everyone needs to make money, to your point. But if you know you need this project and there's a desperation or a really big need for this to go through, they can feel that. And that's when they start saying, well, I can feel that he's desperate, so let's see if we can get a discount. Let's just play a game and give him some false yeses, because we don't want to be the one that kills his parade today. So all of this stuff happens. But if you listen to what Andy's saying and you come in and you say, like, you know what? I've been really responsible running my company as debt free as I can. And if your listeners out there like, man, I'm heavy in debt, that's okay. It's okay. It's okay to now have awareness around that. But I can tell you from my own experience that it's possible. Yeah. And not just possible, but amazing. And he can tell you the same thing. And it's like, you don't need to have tons of money. I don't know your story, but I certainly wasn't, I didn't hit the lottery and be like, oh, I can pay all this off. It was a mindset shift. Mindset shift. It's like, no, we don't need to take on all this debt. We're going to pay cash for things. We're going to pay cash for this. And it's a lifestyle choice at that point.
100%. I think what ends up happening most of the time, like the people that will, I don't know, whatever, not naysay, but like either argue against how I want to run this or against the debt-free running your business, is the math doesn't always make sense from like a tax perspective or whatever you want to call it. Like you could, like on paper, say, well, you could save this much money in taxes by doing this or whatever, or not spend all your cash, and be at a better cash position, use other people's money. I understand all that, but I think the thing that is lost all the time is the byproduct of everything else, because you don't have that noise in your head of the pressure, the extra pressure. So, and I'm going to go back to what I said before, like I have the same pressure that every other business owner has. So money aside, I have employee issues, I have equipment problems, I have logistical issues, I have problems on the job site, I have any other stress or problem that somebody else has going on in their business. I have those too. Yesterday, we had something that happened at the job site, and I'm like, I can't believe that happened, or that part broke, or we got there and we didn't have this, right? I have all of the same stuff. So if I have something else like the money piece that I can reduce all of the stress and the pressure, that is why I do it, because that's doing what we're doing is so hard and so much work. I can't imagine doing what I'm doing and then have that additional pressure. And maybe there's plenty of people out there that run their business with debt and have no pressure. Fine. That's fine. But for me, if I can find ways to reduce pressure, it also then creates this freedom later. Like as you grow your business, we started nobody gave me any money to start the company. We started, me and my wife, we saved up $20,000. We started the company with 20 grand. I spent 13,000 of it on a skid loader and a mower off of Craigslist and a $500 trailer from my grandfather. And that's how we started the company. I've always paid myself a paycheck. Always. I've never not taken a paycheck from the business. And we've grown slowly from there. I've never gotten money from anybody to do anything. And so it is possible, and you can do it. I don't have family that has just given me projects. Like it's not how it goes. Like it's not that it is hard. There are hard days. There's still days that it's just like, why? Like, is this all worth it?
Don't we all ask that question at times?
It's hard, man. It's like, man, you could do what we do every day and get to the end of the year and have nothing to show for it because you squandered all your money on material things or things that you couldn't afford or whatever. And then you're like, it's with the skills we have as business owners. Somebody told me this once. With the skills that we have as business owners, like if you can't make a good enough living, like doing what we're doing, and manage your money well enough to do that, like your skills can go work for somebody that could pay you at least six figures and they have no stress. So like you need to make money doing this because it is so hard. So if I can control things in a way that allow me to make more money, save more money, pay my team more money out of things that I can control, then I want to do those things because that improves the chances of everything else, if that makes sense, right?
100%, dude. So I
So,
know one of the, I'm sure some of the listeners are out there thinking like, all right, and that sounds good, no debt, running the business, but I want to grow a business. Like I want to scale a business. How has it been for you to scale a business without borrowing other people's money and doing it yourself and bootstrapping that?
yeah. So I don't buy things unless I can afford it, and we don't grow unless I can afford to do it. So we haven't really. I will say like our maintenance has continued to grow year over year, and we're getting to the point now where I can either decide to start another crew or start saying no to customers. Um, and that's the case for a lot of things right now. I would say up to this point, we've grown very slow. I haven't really added. We have six people that work in the field right now. Really, most of this year was five, and then we kind of moved into six. Um, and I would say for the last 5 years, I've probably been about that size. Okay, so our project size has gotten bigger. Um, but we haven't really grown at staff wise. I've added an office manager in the last 5 years. That's a part time position too. But you have to grow slow, and I've grown slow. I don't think me personally. I don't think I'm built for a huge company. I don't think I want that. I have never heard somebody say that the bigger they got, the more money they made. Like profitability wise, I have never heard someone to say that their profitability went up when they got bigger. Um, I recently listened to a podcast the other day of somebody that was doing like 15 million in revenue and how many people it took to do that. And it just baffled me how many people it took to do that much. And if you look at a revenue per employee, like it was, what was it? It was like, I don't know. It was 3 times less than what I have per. I don't know. I can't I'm saying that wrong. It doesn't matter. All I'm saying is like for me, I don't think bigger is better. Okay? I don't want it. I don't want the stress. I don't want to have this beast that I have to feed all the time. It's just not what I want. Now, I think it's fine if other people want to do it. It's not for me.
Yep.
I'd rather stay leaner and meaner and be able
Amen.
to uh I mean, if we keep growing, if we grow at this point, we're growing because I need to grow for my team. And because there may come a point where people on my team outgrow the company,
Mhm.
because I don't have anywhere else for them to go. That's been kind of a struggle for me lately. But from a growing standpoint, how I've done it is just year over year. I can't. I mean, we grew the first 5 years size wise, but now we've stayed the same size team and just tried to find better projects at
Mhm.
better pricing and be able to pay more. Does that make sense? To like
Oh, perfect. Mess. Yeah.
people ask me all the time, like, how do I scale? Like, I don't think I'm the person to tell you how to scale, except for me, I only grow if I can afford it. So like if I want to grow the next maintenance team, if I want to do another maintenance route, we have one maintenance route and one crew that does maintenance and one crew that does landscaping and hardscaping. So we on the landscape side, we go from job to job to job. This fall, we've been kind of juggling a couple jobs and whatever, which is fine. But from the maintenance side, if I want to grow the maintenance side and start another crew, I need to invest probably $100,000 in a truck and equipment, right? And so how am I going to do that? Well, I need to have 100 grand to go buy all that stuff, or we start something part time with spare equipment, and that's probably the route I actually will go because I don't need to go out and I don't have a full route worth of work, so a second route worth of work. So if I'm going to do that, I'm going to replicate what we did when we started the company. We worked 2 days a week doing mowing. It started at 1 day a week during mowing, and the rest was landscaping. So I have some guys that start that route 1 or 2 days a week, and then I find landscape work for them to do the rest of the week, or maybe I just hire 2 part-time people to do that part-time job, and use some of the equipment that we're not, the way that we're kind of set up, we have some extra equipment for some different reasons, and maybe they can use that equipment for a while. Like, what I'm saying is, like, there's always a way, and I think, like, it's really easy to, especially with like social media, it's very easy to just think that, like, what other people have or how they're doing it, that's the way for me. You have to find what works for you. Like, so for me, like, the way that we're kind of set up and our equipment, lineup, whatever you want to call it, like, I can do a lot of little things and start some things on the side. I don't have to just go out and buy a brand new Isuzu and fill it with brand new equipment and go start another route that I only have 1 or 2 days worth of week of mowing. Does that make sense?
100%.
So, like, I guess, like, like, to get away from the specifics, it's just there's always another way for me, and I will always find that other way. Um, like I said, it's easier now because we've reached some financial goals and milestones in the company that have put us in a position to be able to make those kinds of moves easier. But from getting to this point, it was a lot of, you have to prioritize your spending where the company needs it at that time, because I can't put it all over the place at once. Sometimes the maintenance team has to grow, so we need to push a little more money over there. Sometimes I have a goal on the landscape side and I need to push the money over there. I will tell you that one of the best things I ever did for the company was hire my sister-in-law, Stephanie. She's we call her our finance manager. She is a CPA. She owns Kauser Consulting. And she runs anything that is money related within her company, she does. She's my sister-in-law, which is a blessing. Obviously we have a great relationship. There's a trust factor there that is very hard to find, and I take it for granted. I think a lot of times that people don't have like, that's been a huge blessing for me, like, big time. I think she started working for me when I was, I think, year 3. I think by year 3 we were at like $750K in revenue, and I was like, dude, I barely got out of high school. I don't know how to manage this kind of revenue. Like, learning how to run a business, right? Like, I didn't really know. And she's like, she was doing her tax. She has always done her taxes. And she's like, I think I could help you. Would you like me to help you? I'm like, yes. And so since then, like, we've developed so many things together, and she's a wealth of knowledge, and she's a heart of a teacher. And I've learned so much from her. And now, like, I would not be where I'm at without her helping. And you have to ask for help when you're running your business. You don't have to be the best at everything. And I've had to learn that. I don't want to be the best at everything. The joy and it is so much cooler to see somebody doing something better than you. It's opposite of what do you think it would be. Like, for me, like, I don't like envy somebody that can cut a brick better than me or run an excavator for me. If anything, at this point, it's like, I need someone to be better than me at that, because I don't want to be the best, because I need to do this over here. Right. And so I feel like I'm kind of jumping all over the place here, but I think, like, from a growing standpoint, you have to get people in place that can help you do some of this stuff. And Stephanie, for me, has been just a huge, huge help in managing the finances of the business, and a sounding board for questions that I have, and helping me make the right decisions. And I've had to kind of, she's a CPA, right? And so in the beginning, I think her CPA and finance background was more towards, like, business debt is good, right? And so over time, I know her mindset has shifted on that, because she's seen the benefits of it now more than ever. And she's told me that, like, I never, like, in the beginning, it wasn't like that for, the way that she thought. And I'm like, this is how we're going to run our business, and I'm going to do it this way. So this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
I love
you
it.
just, and you have, and it wasn't like a mean thing. It was just like, I'm not going to borrow money. So at the end of the year, that's not the option. Okay. From a tax perspective or whatever. as far as like going to spend money, like you said, right? Everybody's, cliche thing is you should go buy some equipment or whatever. Like that's not the answer for me. I do buy some equipment at the end of the year if I want to or I need to, but what you said is exactly how it needs to be. And Stephanie has always told me that from the beginning. She has never said go buy equipment. It's always, if we're going to buy something, we need it for the business, and as a byproduct, it does save on taxes. But we don't go buy equipment to save on taxes. If I don't want to buy the equipment, I don't need to buy it. There's been years where I'm seriously sick of buying stuff and I don't need it and I don't want it, and I just pay the taxes. And if you're paying taxes, you're making money. It's okay. That's part of making money. I don't know if it was this year, whatever. There's been years where I've paid as much taxes than what I did in business the first year.
Mhm.
And like,
Oh yeah.
it's the craziest thing, but like, that's okay. It's because we've made money, right? It's just, I don't know. You have to change your mindset, and it's okay to make money and pay the taxes on that money. And you have to find people that can help you with this stuff, and you don't have to do it all on your own. And,
Well, Andy, I love how you're segueing so beautiful into next week's episode. We're going to talk about surprising ways a debt-free business transforms their team into building a team at that, right? So you didn't even know this, right? Listeners, you didn't know what was coming next. So it's kind of funny how he's segueing directly into this for us. But today, I appreciate you really unpacking that around, how your perspective changes when, you don't have debt in the sales category, how you show up differently, right? Also, how shifting your mindset on debt also helps you reduce stress levels, because to your point, that's one less thing to be worried about, right? You've got everything else, all these other plates in the air on sticks, right? It's one less thing to think about, the money that's going to end up coming in and possibly taking you out at the knees. And then also scaling a business debt free. You talked about doing it slow. It slow, because you know what? If you don't have that safety net of going to the bank and getting cash, you can't grow as fast as you might want to. But who knows whether your want is actually what the market needs, or whether you're going to be able to facilitate that entire new cruise, constant work. So it's so important that with this environment of living debt-free, running your business debt-free, that it slows it down to a point where you have to be accountable. You need to make the money first, and then you can buy it. And here's the cool part. All those tax benefits that we talk about that your CPA wants you to take at the end of the year by taking on debt, you still get them when you pay cash for things too. You still get the same. The only thing you don't get is the debt side of it, the long-term side of that. So listeners out there, all we're asking today is for you to consider potentially asking other questions at the end of the year. If your CPA is telling you to go buy more equipment, is it really the right thing for me? Would it be smart for me to take a year off of buying stuff and just start funding this out of your actual profit side of things and have the business run that way? Or do you really want to continue to go in that direction? That's why I wanted to have Andy on here, is to just have you potentially think of it from a different perspective. This is a man that's doing it. And to watch him, and he's doing some awesome stuff. I love watching him on social, all the stuff that he's doing. But at the end of the day, listeners and anybody else out there listening, it's about how you define success. And he defines success by running a company that he can run debt-free, that gives him the least amount of stress and the most amount of service to the rest of the world, right? That's the target. And for me, it's a very similar target. For others, their idea of success is they want to have the biggest company in the area. And that's a different focus, a different definition of success. That's never been on my heart. My heart's always been, how can I serve clients at the highest level? How can we have the best customer experience possible? And how can we run it debt-free? Right? That's the goal to all of this. So you see other companies around you, they got 100 trucks and 500 people running around. And if you look at it and you're jealous of that, well, that's a different conversation for a different podcast. But my point is defining success for yourself and for your team. Once you have your own success, then you can live on principles like Andy's talking about, where, hey, we don't take on debt to fuel this business. That's not what we do. So that's a principle he lives by, like being a man of your word. That's a principle you live by. And when you define your principles and define success, things become simpler because you know what you will and what you won't do clearly. And so does your team. It makes everything better, black and white, and no more gray. Gray is where stress lives most of the time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Josh. Yeah. I think that you have to decide what you want, and we've committed to doing this. And like I said before, there's other ways to do it. But for me, this is what I want to do, and it's given us financial freedom. And yeah,
that's great. Perfect. Well, so listeners, like I've already alluded to, next week we're going to talk about how running a debt-free business will transform your team. So thanks for tuning in, and Andy, thanks for sharing your amazing wisdom.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.